This is Big Man Tyrone, and you're about to watch the MtG Cabal cast with your hosts, Woad, Thirsty, and Reptar. Sub to us on all your podcast networks at MtG Cabal Cast and YouTube.
Hey guys, welcome to the new episode of the Cabal Cast. We're going to keep it short and sweet this week. As we tweeted out, we're going to be covering a pretty simple but important topic of what to do when there is a new set full of absolute heaters, like the new Return to Ravnica Part 3. Then we'll be getting to picks, so let's keep it quick. Let's get it started.
Yep. So when we were talking this week about what we wanted to do, we were kind of hard-pressed to come up with something because War of the Spark spoilers have just been rampant and just full of extremely good cards that are pushing and pulling on various other cards in standard and older formats because of what these Planeswalker passives are. Sometimes it's just the fact that a Planeswalker is costing 3, 2 generic and 1 that is turning some archetypes. We even have I called it a patched Fire Blast in red at common. And this kind of begs the question, with a huge swath of the set looking like it's going to be immediately playable in standard, modern, and cards like Venser possibly making it into Legacy and Vintage. What do you do here? Do you stick to singles? Is sealed for a short to midterm hold a better option? And just trying to help navigate this landscape, because it doesn't happen that often that we have sets that are just this good. It's actually been more common since the Return to Rav New World Order in terms of printing and set design that we have flops. Yeah. We just have absolute flops more often than we have sets like this that are just straight heaters. So coming into this, it's kind of unique, and it does bridge a little bit off of what we talked about last week and what we will talk about in sealed product as a whole, because it is a very important point here. So Thirsty, in a situation like this, what would you do? What are you looking towards?
So my big thing here is, and I'm going to reference Return to Ravnica Standard. So there's a lot of cards right now that are insanely high priced. When you look at the list on TCG, you sort by card only. Teferi's $20.
He's a regular rare, by the way.
Yeah.
He's not a mythic.
Yeah, a regular rare for $20 from this set. And, there's cards all over the place, commons, uncommons, that are worth more than $1. And what you're looking at is, in Return to Ravnica, prices were kept down for singles because there were so many insanely good archetypes and insanely good cards that were out there. Deathrite Shaman was in 3 or 4 different decks, and it was a $10 card for most of its lifespan. Abrupt Decay was a $5 card. Sphinx's Rev was, the most expensive card in that standard at $15 to $20 as a 4-of, because there were so many different archetypes that were just completely insane and viable.
Yep.
So because I don't play standard personally, I don't, it's stupid, whatever. I want an eternal format with high barrier of entry for power level, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things I look at when I look at these sets is I look at eternal playability and casual playability.
Okay.
The second of which I'll touch on my pick for the episode. But in terms of eternal playability, obviously Teferi. That card's eternal playable.
Yep.
Cards like Tomic. Right now, pre-ordering TCG low is $2.99 plus 58 cents shipping.
Yes.
So $3.44. And Positive EV Games has 40 of them for $3.44. There is no way this card stays long-term $3. The effect is insane. It's great for Modern. It's great for Legacy. It's great for EDH. And while, yes, this price is probably going to go down when the set releases, I don't think it's going to go down much.
No.
It may bottom out at about $2, but that's something that has a really high power level for Eternal formats. So for me, that's the type of stuff that I spec on when a new set hits. Just because I know it may not be immediately impactful in those formats because all eyes are going to be on standard. And, trophy was kind of the exception rather than the rule because it immediately attacked one of the best archetypes in the format with Tron and Modern. But this is a card that you'll be able to pick up release weekend trading out for $1 to $2, no problem. And probably for a couple of months after that. So that's the type of stuff I look into, and I go deep on those.
Okay.
So I don't really go wide. I go tall on these. And I'm like, all right, what are 3 to 4 cards that I want to go super tall on? And if I eat my hat, I eat my hat. Like similar to what you did with Expansion Explosion, I think we both ended up with well over 100 to 200 of each of those.
Yep.
And it was like, all right, this is a card that's busted. And as we touched on, it's something that's similar to something that's existed before and was very powerful. I'm going to go super tall on it. So that's my personal go-to when I'm looking at a new set.
Okay.
That's how I do it. What about you, Rep?
So with Return to Rev, I was not in a place where I could buy and hold a case. I had just moved and got a new job, so all I could really do was buy singles. But for Return to Rev, I actually advocated for a number of my non-Magic playing friends to buy a case of that set and just sit on it for about a year, because the ROI on that set looked like it was going to be insane for about the 9-month to year turnaround. After that, it was going to be a little more volatile because Modern still hadn't really solidified itself as being a format that was going to drive Deathrite Shaman, Abrupt Decay, the Shocklands that were there, Master of Cruelties, Supreme Verdict, Detention Sphere. All these cards from that set that eventually made it in. I think nobody really plays the Charms much, but some of those were awkwardly pricey. And if I were to look at this set the same way I did at Return to Rev, it would be the same thing. If you have the ability to hold a case of this set, I would. We are a little under 50% of the set being spoiled. Right now, Mythic Spoiler has 135 of 264. So we're somewhere around 45% of the set. And I haven't honestly done a count on Planeswalkers. I think we have all the Mythics and Rares, but we don't have all the Uncommons. And I think
that's correct.
The Rares and the Uncommon slots are where we're going to see kind of a shake-up in Modern. And the ability to pick those up in a greater quantity than the Mythic and Rare Planeswalkers, or a higher opportunity to pick those up in foil, lends itself to being yet another mid-ish hold on Sealed. And in the same vein, that's where I'm going to look when it comes to picking things up either at the pre-release or for pre-orders, in that kind of uncommon slot and rare slot, and work in there. And not just because the most expensive card in the set is Teferi, which is a rare, and the next most expensive card is the Mythic Liliana, but because we have things like the 3-drop Tybalt, which gives red back the players can't gain life clause that was on Rampaging Ferocidon, that's just been in prison.
Banned.
For no
Too good for standard.
Yeah, for some reason.
Too good.
And that takes care of a problem that Red doesn't necessarily really suffer from in actual tournament formats, but that basically means that Wild Growth Walker is no longer a card in this format, and Hydroid Krasis, if for whatever reason Blue-Green X becomes better or more popular, it also takes away the Hydroid Krasis kind of ability there. And so that's the area I'm going to try and function a little bit, and then I might go off the deep end on Bolus. Right now, I don't know what his value is. I haven't taken a look. I haven't really seen him pop up, but that's where I might go, because I think he... this is a card I should really keep track of. Is he the 6th Bolus Planeswalker or the 5th? Either way, it doesn't matter. I think you can still continue to play Bolus Tribal in EDH, and the fact that this Bolus has all the other Bolus abilities basically allows him to rule the roost.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm going to go, probably at pre-release, because I think a lot of people will want to get rid of Bolus because he doesn't immediately have a home, and then long-term, as the set starts to fall away, I'll pick up Bolus again, unless for whatever reason he just has no showing at all, and then I'll just keep picking him up as I can.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of the avenue I'm going to function in. And it's not because this set looks like it has some cards that might get banned in Modern, a la Deathrite Shaman, or some cards that might not translate despite having a very high profile in Standard, and Sphinx's Rev and the Jace from Return to Rev. But because I think at this point, these sets are definitely designed with casuals in mind, and keeping to that is going to be a little safer than trying to pick up cards that look like they're just going to function immediately in Modern and in Legacy. I think a prime example to just continue on this track is Sorin. Right now he's pre-ordering for about $3, but if I remember correctly, and I'm going to pull this up just to make sure I'm not completely speaking out of my butt, he's actually pretty good in casual. As long as
he is.
Yeah, creatures and planeswalkers you control have lifelink. He'll deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker is +2, and his -X is return
Reanimate.
target creature. Yeah, with CMC X from your graveyard to the battlefield. Like,
sure.
yeah, because all your creatures and planeswalkers lifelink. Deal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Yeah, that's the type of thing that's like everyone loves Reanimator, especially in those colors.
Yep.
I think that has a long term. And that's the other thing is looking at the comparison to Return to Ravnica. Most of the money in Return to Ravnica was in the rare slots.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it was.
Yes.
And here you've got Teferi, you've got Ral, you've got Sorin, you've got all these rares that at first glance are heads and shoulders better. I mean, Vivian and Vivian's Bow are bonkers.
Yes.
Absolutely insane.
Yep.
And they're rares. And it's going to be hard to compete value-wise in the Mythic slot. Besides, honestly, Bolas may see some Grixis deck, but besides that and Tezzeret for casuals, but I don't think it has a spot in Standard. The rares are where all the value is going to be in this set.
Yeah, I agree with that. It feels like this is a set that fixes a number of issues they had, and Return to Rev did it as well, but if they continue on, maybe they'll actually adjust the fact that when they added Mythics to the game to help reduce the cost of Standard by trying to put more pressure on the rares to be better and thus carry more of the financial burden, they did the exact opposite. And in this instance, Again, if they put more pressure on these rares to be better, to carry decks more instead of Mythics, then we could see this trend carry on, hopefully. Yeah.
And especially if Karn, which hasn't been 100% confirmed, but if that Karn is also real at rare.
Oh, yes.
That's, you have potentially 3 rares straight out of the box that are 4-ofs in Legacy and Vintage. And that's insane to think of. But
yeah, I mean, people are citing the 4 CMC Karn as a real card, and I don't know where it was spoiled, but I feel like it was on PAX weekend. I just can't remember where.
So it was part of the leak that was the 8 cards that are still super blurry on Mythic Spoiler with Rolesk, Niv, Domri, Ral. It's all it was part of that leak, and the Nissa and Gideon.
Okay.
Where it was a leak that wasn't the content creators that stuff was assigned to, and that's why there's people up in arms over it.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
But again, those rares are insane.
Yeah.
And they make Standard better for players.
Mm-hmm.
They make it worse for finance people, which granted, I frankly think if you want to be in finance, you need to stay away from Standard anyways.
Yeah.
Unless you're actively grinding and paying attention to the meta, but even then, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it.
No. The one card I'm not sure about, and it was up on TCG Player this week and then came back and then was taken down when I looked for it, is the Buy a Box promo, Tezzeret Master of the Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
No, there used to be 2 prices for it. It was a $50 card, and now it's down off TCG Player.
Yeah.
And I think this is a card that has immediate eternal playability. Modern, Legacy, Vintage. I've been arguing with a number of people this week that never experienced the affinity keyword in Standard. So they don't know what it means to give all your creatures and your planeswalkers affinity. And obviously, you don't cast this card in the actual robots deck. It costs 6. That's fine.
Yeah.
But when you look at this Tezzeret, which is 6, see if I can get it up. Nope, not coming up. 4 blue black, and its +2 is Tezzeret Master of the Bridge deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of artifacts you control. You gain X life. That is half of Tezzeret Agent of Bolus's ultimate, and it kills faster.
Yep.
If you drop AOB on 4, you still need to uptick twice to get him to live. And at that point, you're doing maybe like 6 or 8 damage. I did the math earlier, but the fact that you have to then uptick 4 more times in ultimate again compared to 6 drop Tez, which can dome for 5 and then 6 and then 7, which right there is 18 damage, gaining you 18 life in the process.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
War Prison, for whatever reason, doesn't play as Agent of Bolus in the main. This can go into the main. 4-color Prison deck doesn't play, like Lantern, these decks slide it in immediately. In Legacy, you can actually play this card on turn 2 in the Robots deck. It plays all 8 Soul Lands, it plays 4 Mox Opal, and 4 Lotus Petal. So if you hit 2 Soul Lands, Lotus Petal, Mox Opal, you can play this Tezzeret on turn 2 and then just start dumping your deck. It's ridiculous. And in Vintage, it's turn 1-able. Like, I don't think it's a $50 card long term. I just think this has a very stable price long term, probably in the neighborhood of $25 to $30.
Yeah.
But I don't know. People are gonna want to play this card. I also thought that what is it? The vehicle from Dominaria.
Skyship Weatherlight.
That's what I thought. The Skyship Weatherlight. I thought that was going to be good in Vintage shops because it's Artifact Impulse, where if you connect with it, you just look at the top 4 or 5 cards of your library, find an artifact, put it in your hand, and put the rest in the bottom, and that keeps workshops going. But I don't know. Maybe I'm in the year 3019 when it comes to workshop tech.
It's possible.
Or it'll be good when WotC eventually restricts every artifact in Vintage, besides that one.
Yeah, that's true. It lets you dump constantly. That is very true.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I think Tezzeret is, a $25 to $30 card, and I think it's also worth noting that he will be in those promo packs, as he is the buy a box promo.
Yes,
so those packs that your LGS gets to hand out at FNM or however they want to do, since they get to dictate it, he will be in there.
Mm-hmm.
So don't snap by the first one you see for $50, unless you need it.
Yeah.
It's going to go down. There's going to be the market.
I just wanted to get a handle and see if any store was actually going to have a price on them, because technically a store can't ahead of time until release weekend, because it's a buy a box promo and you're not supposed. You don't get high off your own supply. And if WotC catches you putting up your buy a box promos for sale before the pre-release happens,
you're probably going to have a bad time.
Yeah, exactly.
Real bad.
Oh, exactly. So, moving forward with War of the Spark, it's definitely going to be interesting, and there's ways to kind of attack this financially and to kind of come out ahead. You just have to figure out if you have the time to sit on. I believe if you sit on some amount of sealed, you'll be able to cash out a lot earlier than some of the other recent sets that were in a master set. It didn't have full art promos attached to it. Yeah,
that's probably true. And I think, if you have those cards that you want to go after that are the eternal playable ones, clearly it might not be in the first month, it might not be in the first 2 months, because sometimes eternal players are slow to adapt, but there's a lot of cards in here that are going to be insane in eternal formats, and especially on the casual side.
Yes.
That'll be really good.
And I can't recommend enough, if you're going to go the singles route and you're going to look for modern and legacy playables, you really should be paying attention to the legacy subreddit and the modern subreddit, because not every card goes up on those when spoiler season happens. It's always cards that look like they can filter into an existing archetype or might be a hoser for something. Yeah. And there's just a lot of exposition about each one of them and a lot of theory crafting about it. Yeah. I think it's a really good place to be. One of the more recent instances of that I got sucked into was Kozilek's Return, when that card was leaked out. I spent a lot of time in the modern subreddit talking about how that card actually slows down green red Tron, because that was the version of Tron at the time, by about half a turn, and it's not where you want to be. And there were there's a lot of good discussion about that card, and it never came to be appropriately. But if people who just jumped the gun and said, okay, we're already casting giant Eldrazi's, why wouldn't we want a flashback Pyroclasm, moved in on that card because of Tron, they lost out in the end because of that. So make sure you stay up to date during spoiler season in format specific locations. MTG Salvation or Discords for those formats, or just the subreddits. They'll all be good for you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so picks?
Yes.
You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
All right.
So I said I was going to touch on the casual market and how that drives things. So my pick for this is Leyline Prowler. It is green, black, 1, 2, 3, Death Touch, Lifelink, Mana Dork. Adds one of any color. So there's a couple reasons I'm picking this one. First off, it's an uncommon that has an immediate archetype in Standard and Sultai or whatever that it can slot into, which is already playing 2 to 3 Mana Dorks there. And granted, those cost 2 and this costs 3, but this has significant upside over those other 2.
Yep.
It's also the type of card that Timmy is going to love in his EDH deck because it gains him life and it taps for mana of any color. And getting a little bit more up there in theory crafting, it's an insanely efficient body. 3 mana for a Death Touch Lifelink 2/3 is kind of, the standard for Vampire Nighthawk. Yep. We just had Gifted Aetherborn that was a 2/3 with Death Touch and Lifelink for double black that, granted, did have a more relevant creature type in Vampire. That card's now $2, though, and it hasn't seen play in Standard in ages.
Yeah.
I think that, getting in on this card for sub 30, 40 cents is absolutely worth it, because there's every possibility, while it's in Standard, it hits $2 to $3 a piece. It could be Terramander. It could have that level of play, not to mention the EDH upside. In a year, all of a sudden, as you posited, we could have the uncommon slot driving the value in this sealed product. You could have Nahiri, Stone, whatever, that reduces equip costs. Could be, $5 because of EDH. This is the type of card that we could see as $3 to $4 because of EDH. So as far as the hold goes, I've got about 100 right now on the way, hopefully for 20 cents. But as far as the hold, this one's a little bit different. It's pay attention to buy lists. Pay attention to results, because there's an opportunity that it could be a legitimate pump and dump.
Yeah.
Come release weekend, we have that event. It spikes. It hits $4, and you're like, oh man, I can go. I can trade these out at $3 all weekend at my LGS, or I can just buy list them for $2 a piece right now and be done with it.
And to lend credence to that, the first Star City event with Aether Revolt legal and Standard, when there was at least 2 green-black decks in the top 8, we actively moved on the energy-based Dark Confidant. Yep. And we were able to pick those up for under $1 and flip them the next day.
Yeah. And that's the type of thing that I think you'll see with this card, because it has that kind of upside.
Yep.
And the other thing is, if you don't move it in those first couple months, if it doesn't have that spike, pay attention, because this card's going to be played in EDH forever. And there's going to be some guy rocking a homebrew version of Rock at their modern FNM that's probably going to try this out because they want to be able to cast Vivian on 4 or something like that. So
one of the things I want to say that I like about this card before we move away is that this card offers up a lot of 2-for-1 opportunity, because it has Death Touch and it taps for a mana. So you can declare blockers and then actually cast something, and I have this up right now. Death Sprout, colorless, double black, green. Destroy target creature. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. There are a number of instant speed removal spells in Standard right now, and being able to offer up a not 2-for-1, let's say a 1.5-for-1, because you do have to spend 2 cards, but you get the land on top of it. that kind of opportunity is generally where you want to be. That was one of the powerful parts of Rishkar, was while you didn't necessarily tap all of your creatures for mana, just being able to block and use some of them for mana made that card very good. The same thing with Cryptolith, right? When that was there for a hot second in Standard, was because you were able to block and then use your creatures to emerge Elder Deep Friend, the blue one. Right? And it's this kind of ability that makes things pretty strong and pretty interesting. You could even play Sultai and Growth Spiral off this thing, like in combat. I like the utility that this card has in Standard, and it definitely lends itself to being a couple dollars. And cards like this that have a weird and unique ability have crested $4 to $5 in the last couple of years. Wild Slash was a $5 uncommon, and red wasn't even the most played color in that format. It was just the best red removal spell.
Yep.
So you're looking at a very large opportunity here. The pick that I have for this week is actually my second pick, because I did not realize that my first pick had shot up to $5 a couple of weeks ago. My first pick was Oath of Teferi.
Oh, yeah.
And I bought a bunch of them because it's Chainveil number 2, right? You can never go wrong with allowing casual players to activate their Planeswalkers more than once. People are going to do it. But the reason I wanted to pick Oath of Teferi is because of Nicol Bolas. The reason I like Nicol Bolas is because it goes infinite with my actual pick for this week, Jace Cunning Castaway. Not Jake, Jace.
I'll call him Jake from now on, though.
Jake Cunning Castaway is a sub $3 Planeswalker on his way out of Standard. So we only have this card for 3 months. So what does this mean? This is a very short-term opportunity. Either this is going to pop because somebody does this on camera and everybody's going to buy in, or you just have a $3 Planeswalker for the end of forever, and I'm betting on the former rather than the latter, because this is nutty. With Jace Cunning Castaway, his -5 allows you to create 2 tokens that are copies of Jace Cunning Castaway, except they are not legendary. Now the important part is that this is self-referencing for the card itself. So if another Planeswalker uses this ability, it makes another copy of that Planeswalker. So when you use Nicol Bolas, or when you have Nicol Bolas and Jace in play, Nicol Bolas can now -5 to create 2 Nicol Bolas. Well, how do you do that? You can do it with Oath of Ajani, which adds another counter to each Planeswalker, but that makes this deck 5 colors. Or you use Oath of Teferi, which allows you to activate Nicol Bolas twice, and keeps the deck 4 colors instead of 5. So you play Jace on 3, plus him on 4, play Bolas on 5, and if you have Oath in play somehow, you can plus Bolas to get him from 4 to 5 using his own plus, then ult him to create 2 Bolas. One of them can now plus twice, and now your opponent has... you've drawn 3 cards, your opponent has exiled or destroyed 3 cards or permanents, and that other Bolas that popped out can then plus and minus again, and now you have 2 more Bolas. And this actually goes infinite. Frank Karsten has some weird 18 card combo that can kill on turn 2. I think Bolas, Oath of Teferi, and Jace Cunning Castaway is going to happen on camera at some point before Jace rotates out, and people are either going to catch on before it happens or when it happens, and he's going to go from $2 to $8 immediately, and you'll just be able to dump infinitely. So this isn't a pump and dump because you've got to wait for the triggering event, but it's going to happen, and I believe that's going to take Jake Cunning Castaway from a $3 walker to an $8 walker, and then you're going to be able to sell them the Card Kingdom or some random people at your FNMs who just want to do big dumb things.
That is very much that's some saffron olive shit.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. And I don't know which one of the 4 CMC generals from the cycle 2 years ago allows you to do this. Which one is blue, black? Oh, it's the artifact one, isn't it? Blue, black, red, and white.
Yeah.
Brea, something eternal, or something like that.
Brea.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
She in herself has her own combo engine. This doesn't slide in well there because it has nothing to do with that. But
Yeah.
this is cherry. I explained this to a friend who was trying to do some dumb stuff with Simic Ascendancy. He's like, I'm going to proliferate a bunch because that's a hilarious keyword. Center side. I'm like, dude, just make infinite boluses. And his response was, look, I'm just trying to play fair, man.
Okay.
Now, I would.
Like
I think Jace Cunning Castaway is the card that has the most opportunity here in the short term. I don't know if Bolus is a long-term standard player because we already have one in standard and he's not doing it. We talked about this last week. So I'm going to go with the very low-hanging fruit here in Jace. And who knows, there could even be some more proliferate shenanigans or additional planeswalkers that just makes Jace good on his own. I'm just basing it off of they release Nicol Bolas and you can immediately go infinite with these 3 cards in standard. Done.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that's my pick. Enjoy that one.
Oh yeah, that is so casual.
Oh yeah.
But
right now
I believe it. I mean, like I said, that is absolutely something Saffron Olive would do.
Oh yeah, if he gets his hands on this and plays it at any point, some or all of those cards are just going to explode. I myself have no skin in the game aside from Oath of Teferi, just because I've had to pick up some other stuff for War Prison this weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm moving out of expansion explosions. I'm getting rid of all mine 163, which is like an 8x up from my 25 or 26 cent buy-in is good for me. So this is probably where I'll move in on both Jace and Bolas.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting on expansions, you can either hope that they continue to do real good, or they might get hosed with some white planeswalker static ability that gives hexproof. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. It could happen.
Yes. But that's it for me, unless...
Nope, that's it for us.
All right.
So thanks for tuning in, guys. Just a friendly reminder, this Friday, the 12th, I will be hosting and we are sponsoring a middle school FNM that will be streamed on the Moonbase Market Twitch page. We'll tweet out the link when we go live. In the meantime, you can find me on Twitter at Thirsty Sizzler, and
I am at Halt I Am Reptar. We are at MtG Cabalcast on Twitter and Patreon, and you can always drop us a line.
Yep, feel free. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for
guys.
tuning in.